Eagles family, just 1 week left until our showdown against the Packers, and all focus is locked in. Hold on to that emotion, because what just happened in Philly is the kind of move that can change the course of an entire season. When everyone thought the front office might take a breather, boom, another strike. Bold, calculated, and completely true to our culture. This isn't a team that's just competing. This is a team chasing something bigger. And if you're here, it's because you feel that same energy too. So go ahead and smash that like button to power up the nest, and drop in the comments, Howie Birds, I believe. Philly doesn't play around with the moment. Every decision, every move, every adjustment has a purpose. And this latest one? It's a clear message. The hunt continues, and nobody here is satisfied with almost. Now sit back, turn up the volume, and roll with me, because what we're breaking down today shows exactly why this team is built different. Fly, Eagles, fly! The Philadelphia Eagles did it again. Another move from Howie Roseman that hits right at the core of what this front office has become known for: aggression, timing, and an understanding of roster balance that few teams can match. Just when it seemed like things might quiet down heading into the trade deadline, the Eagles front office struck, trading for Miami Dolphins edge rusher Jalen Phillips in exchange for a third-round pick. It's a calculated risk, one that says everything about how much this franchise believes it's still in full-on championship mode. Let's be honest, this isn't just a random mid-season pickup. This move is laced with intention. The connection between Phillips and Vic Fangio, the Eagles' defensive coordinator, runs deep. Fangio coached him back in 2023 during their brief time together in Miami. And even though that Dolphins defense had its share of challenges, Fangio's respect for Phillips never faded. The fit, schematically and culturally, is exactly the kind of move that screams Philadelphia. Fangio's no-nonsense, old-school mentality, that bring-your-lunch-pail-and-go-to-work energy, fits this city like a glove, and adding a player who thrived under that mindset makes perfect sense. Now, for context, this is the third trade in a week for Roseman. Before this, the Eagles added Jets corner Michael Carter and Ravens cornerback, formerly Packers star, Jaire Alexander, both of whom already shifted the tone of the defense. And just when the league thought that might be enough, Roseman doubled down on the defensive side, adding yet another weapon to Fangio's growing arsenal. What makes Phillips such a fascinating addition is that he's exactly the type of player who can swing a playoff run if he stays healthy. That's the key. Standing at 6 feet 5 inches, 263 pounds, Phillips was drafted 18th overall in 2021, a former first-rounder with every tool a defensive coordinator dreams of. His production under Fangio was electric, 6.5 sacks in only 8 games during that 2023 season before tearing his Achilles. That injury was brutal, and it was followed by an ACL tear last year. But now, as of late October, Phillips has started showing flashes again. 3 sacks in his last 5 games, top 10 in pressure rate among all edge rushers, and trending upward right when the Eagles made their move. So yes, there's risk here. A third-round pick isn't nothing, especially for a player with a history of injuries. But Roseman isn't the type to move out of fear. He moves based on probabilities and upside. The details make it even smarter. If Phillips leaves in free agency after the season, this trade counts toward the compensatory pick formula, meaning the Eagles could actually earn that third-rounder back. They already have multiple third-round picks lined up, their own, one from the Jets, and another projected comp pick for losing Milton Williams to the Patriots. It's classic Roseman, turning what looks like a short-term risk into a long-term hedge. Then there's the financial angle. Miami reportedly picked up part of Phillips' salary, which helps the Eagles maintain their flexibility going into 2026, when they're already projected to hold 8 draft picks, including potentially 2 fourths and 2 fifths. The cap situation stays clean, the depth chart gets a boost, and Fangio gets a familiar player who knows his system and can bring immediate impact off the edge alongside Haason Reddick, Josh Sweat, and eventually the returning Nolan Smith and Brandon Graham. Phillips's talent is not in question. When he's right physically, he's one of the most disruptive young pass rushers in football. He's long, explosive off the snap, has great pursuit speed, and his hand usage allows him to win inside or outside depending on the look. Fangio loves those hybrid fronts, the NASCAR packages where athletic linemen rotate inside to create chaos, and Phillips is built for that kind of scheme. He can stunt, counter inside, or even line up over a guard and use his quickness to blow up the pocket. His 32 pressures this year rank 11th among all pass rushers, with 25 hurries, 6th overall, and that's after missing time early in the season. His ability to generate consistent disruption even before the sack numbers spike makes him exactly the kind of piece Philadelphia loves: pressure over hype, substance over flash. Now, the flip side of this trade can't be ignored. Injuries have been a defining part of his career. He medically retired in college at UCLA before transferring to Miami, where he revived his career but always carried that durability question. Tearing both an Achilles and ACL before turning 27 is no small matter. That's why some fans are split. The upside is tantalizing, but the risk is real. However, considering the Eagles' rotation, Phillips won't have to carry a full workload right away. Fangio can ease him in, use him in favorable matchups, and maximize what he brings to the table, a spark of youth, length, and athleticism to a defense already loaded with veterans who know how to win. That's what everyone in Philly is wondering right now, because this trade walks that fine line between brilliance and risk, exactly where Howie Roseman loves to operate. You can't deny that this move, timing-wise, feels like it was ripped straight from his playbook, a defensive-minded acquisition just before the trade deadline, right when other teams are hesitating, trying to hold their draft capital tight. But that's never been Roseman's style. He's playing chess while everyone else is still setting up the board. To understand why this deal feels so Eagles, you've got to look at how this team has been built since Roseman took over again. Every season, he's shown that Philadelphia will always value elite traits and locker room culture over fear of what might go wrong. Jalen Phillips checks both of those boxes when healthy: elite athleticism, high character, relentless motor. And let's not forget, this team's identity under Nick Sirianni has been built around competition. No position is ever safe. Nobody gets comfortable. Adding Phillips into that mix sends a message to the entire locker room. The standard doesn't change. The pressure stays on. You can imagine what Fangio must be planning already. Pairing Phillips with Haason Reddick off the edge, letting Josh Sweat rotate through, then dropping Brandon Graham in for key third down snaps? That's chaos. And Fangio's not a just rush for and pray kind of guy. His scheme thrives when he can disguise fronts and let athletic players do what they do best: react, attack, and punish quarterbacks. Phillips is the type of weapon that lets Fangio open the playbook wide again, just in time for the playoff push. What makes this even more intriguing is the long-term angle. Roseman didn't just trade for a short-term rental. He's looking at a 26-year-old who fits the exact athletic and age profile that he's targeted for years. Think about it. Since 2017, every great Eagles defense has been built on depth and flexibility up front. There's always been a rotation, multiple players who can attack from different spots. And right now, that rotation was due for a shot of youth. Fletcher Cox is in the twilight phase. Graham's playing what might be his final season. Nolan Smith's still developing. Adding a player like Phillips bridges that gap, someone young enough to be part of the next wave, experienced enough to contribute right now. And remember, Roseman's known for getting ahead of the market. If Phillips performs even close to what he was pre-injury, this deal could turn into a long-term partnership. Maybe the Eagles even extend him early before he hits free agency. That's how Roseman operates. He bets on talent early, gets value before the price explodes, and always keeps the roster 2 steps ahead. It's also worth noting how well Fangio's system has translated in Philadelphia. A year ago, this defense was in disarray. Communication issues, blown coverages, lack of discipline in the secondary, all of it. Fast forward to now, and it's like night and day. Fangio has brought a structure, a toughness, and a consistency that mirrors the city itself. His reputation as old school might have rubbed some players the wrong way in Miami, but in Philly, that kind of mentality thrives. The players have bought in. They're sharper, more physical, and they play with that blue-collar edge that defines Eagles football. And for someone like Phillips, who's already proven he can play within Fangio's scheme, that familiarity could accelerate his transition faster than anyone expects. The numbers back it up, too. Before his injuries, Phillips wasn't just good, he was trending toward great. 8.5 sacks as a rookie, 7 more the next year, then 6.5 in only 8 games under Fangio before the Achilles tear. Even this season, as he works his way back, his efficiency metrics are among the league's best. Top 10 in pressures, top 15 in pass rush grade. That's not by accident. It's a reflection of a player who wins with more than just athleticism. He studies, he adapts, and when you combine that with Fangio's detailed approach, the potential ceiling here is massive. Of course, that if looms over everything. The injuries can't be ignored. Medically retired in college, torn Achilles, torn ACL. That's a lot for any athlete to come back from. But if you're going to take a swing, this is the kind of player you do it for. The reward is too high to pass up, especially with the way the Eagles are built to manage depth. They don't need him to play 90% of snaps. They just need him to play impactful snaps, those crucial third downs, those red zone drives where one play can change momentum. It's also telling that Roseman structured this trade in a way that minimizes long-term damage. The compensatory pick angle makes this almost a free roll. If Phillips leaves after the season, the Eagles get that pick back. Miami's eating part of his salary, and the Eagles keep their draft flexibility intact. That's not reckless aggression. That's smart aggression. That's a team operating with vision. And make no mistake, this move wasn't made out of desperation. It's about dominance. The NFC still runs through Philadelphia, and Roseman knows it. Adding another piece to a defense that's already top tier shows one thing: this organization isn't satisfied. They want to bury teams in January. They want quarterbacks feeling that pressure from the first snap to the last. And when you picture Phillips lined up next to that front, the possibilities are downright scary. Because when you look at the bigger picture, this trade isn't just about Jalen Phillips, it's about what it says regarding how the Eagles think, how they build, and what they value as an organization. Howie Roseman isn't reacting to injuries or short-term needs. He's playing the long game, setting this roster up to sustain dominance for years. And that's what separates Philadelphia from the rest of the NFC right now. Let's break this down beyond the surface. Phillips brings something this defense has quietly been missing: pure, unfiltered explosiveness off the edge with length and power combined. Hasten Reddick is elite in burst and bend. Josh Sweat wins with technique and motor, but Phillips adds that raw combination of size and closing speed that makes offensive tackles panic. At 6 feet 5 inches, he can extend, redirect, and collapse the pocket with a single move. And in Fangio's system, that kind of versatility is gold. Fangio doesn't run a predictable defense. He disguises everything: fronts, coverages, pressures. One snap it's a simulated blitz, the next it's a 4-man rush that looks like 7. Phillips gives him another chess piece to move around. Imagine 3rd and long in January: Reddick, Sweat, Phillips, and Jaylen Carter all standing at the line, shifting pre-snap, leaving an offensive line guessing who's coming in from where. That's nightmare fuel for any quarterback. Now, let's talk about the timing. This trade dropped right before the deadline, which means Roseman knew exactly